A couple of days ago on Facebook, somebody sent me this link. Steve Martin did stand-up again. He opened for Jerry Seinfeld, and immediately what this made me think is, oh my gosh, it's now possible to see Steve Martin do stand-up. That's a bit of a stretch because I don't think Steve Martin is going to go back into stand-up. He might have a second stand-up career here later in life. And I would be thrilled if that happens. But here's what I immediately thought. Steve Martin is back on stage, and I never expected that to happen in a stand-up context. When I learned about Steve Martin when I was younger, he'd already stopped doing stand-up comedy. I was actually a young kid when he stopped doing stand-up comedy. Just one day he stopped doing it, and that was that. And I'd given up hope, the fact that I might someday be able to see Steve Martin do stand-up routine. But now it seems that's all up in the air. And I think that is a really good thing. The thing about live performance, especially about theater, is that it's ephemeral. That's both the curse and the blessing of it. If you miss it, you miss it. You were either there and you witnessed it, or you weren't, and it's gone, and there's no way to get it back. I'm especially reminded of this because, right now, when I'm filming this, it's the spring of 2016, and Hamilton has just won the Tony Award, and tickets are horribly difficult to get.
You're here with us in New York City.
And because it's just won the Tony Award, there's this belief that the original cast is going to move on, and they probably will. They stick around until they get the Tony Award, and then they switch out because these are pretty smart, talented people, and they're probably going to move on to other projects. Which means the possibility of seeing Hamilton with Lin-Manuel Miranda and the rest of the cast, the original cast, is slim to none by the time I am able to get to New York and get tickets to see the show. Tickets are sold out long into the summer. This exclusivity, this exclusiveness of theater is one of the appealing things about it. Once again, you're either there, you see it, you're part of that event, or you're not. A couple of years ago, I thought that Peter Brook was going to stop doing theater. What he actually did is he retired from the theater that he runs in northern Paris. He retired as the artistic director of that particular theater, but he didn't stop doing theater. But I didn't know that at the time, and so around 2011, I went off to Sydney, Australia, and saw a Peter Brook production, because I thought to myself, if I don't go see a Peter Brook production and he quits doing theater, I will never see a Peter Brook production. Since then, I've seen 3 Peter Brook productions, because Peter Brook doesn't stop doing theater, he just stopped running that particular organization there in northern Paris. And his plays travel for months and months, sometimes years, around the world to different places. But I take pride in seeing Peter Brook productions, because I love Peter Brook, but he's not a spring chicken. He's getting up there in years, and eventually there's not going to be a Peter Brook. And then definitely there will no longer be Peter Brook productions. So seeing a Peter Brook production, because he is kind of a mentor of mine, was very important to me. Years ago, when I was in grad school, I met Paul Baker. And Paul Baker is, for those that don't know, is a Texas legend. He's an educator and director and a man of the theater. And he taught at Baylor University and then Trinity University, and he invented new kinds of theater architecture. And he created a whole pedagogy of how to teach the arts. He called it the integration of abilities. And generations of Texas theater artists in particular, since him, have spread out and made their impact on the field as well. Anyway, he was a very important figure to me, and he was quite old when I met him. He was in his 90s, and I had to do the whole old school letter of introduction. A friend of mine was friends with one of his daughters, who lived in Austin, and I approached her with a letter of recommendation, and she in turn wrote me a letter of introduction to meet her father. And I went to Gonzales, Texas, and Paul Baker and his wife Kitty served me lemonade and cookies, and we sat on their porch in their wonderful barn-like house, and he told me about his days in the theater, and he signed books that I had of his. And I treasure the fact that I got a chance to meet Paul Baker while he was alive. A couple of years later, he passed on, and now there is no more Paul Baker. And the opportunity to sit with him and meet him and ask him questions in person and be around him is gone. Just like missing productions. Those of people that see Hamilton can rightfully say with pride, we saw Hamilton when it was out, when it was there. Those people that were in the audience that night that Steve Martin got up on stage out of the blue, out of nowhere, and started doing stand-up again, can rightfully be proud of the fact that they were there, they saw it. They didn't know they were going to see it, but they won out. They won some sort of performance lottery, so to speak. So I guess the point of this is take advantage of theater's ephemeral quality. It's here for a short time, and if you want to see something, go see it. If you want to meet somebody in the theater, meet them, especially if they're getting up there in years. Because unlike a film, unlike a recorded song, unlike a painting that's left behind, theater is a live art form. It has to be performed in a room in front of people, both doing it and witnessing it. And after that's done, it's done. And if you didn't see it, you missed out. And you can never, ever get it back. Thanks for watching.